The following program may contain strong language and brief nudity. But don't get your hopes up. After all, this is public access TV. Gene and Dave Show.
I'm Gene.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the
Gene and Dave Show.
Welcome to another episode of the Gene and Dave Show. This episode is all about know your resources, particularly here in Austin. We're here today with Celia Hughes, the Executive Director of ArtSpark Texas. We should also mention that ArtSpark is a proud sponsor of the Gene and Dave Show. We recently did a show with ArtSpark called Disruption, and of course you can see that on the Gene and Dave Show webpage.
Celia was instrumental in getting that episode set up and connecting us with the right people. So thank you very much for doing that, Celia.
You're welcome.
In fact, Celia, we would like to know a little bit more about ArtSpark. So generally speaking, what is ArtSpark?
It's a nonprofit organization that hovers between art and advocacy and education that fits squarely into the disability rights, disability service, whatever you want to call it, movement. We've been around Austin since 1996. Under several different names, of course. We started as Access Arts Austin, where we provided audio description. We then became VSA, Arts of Texas, VSA Texas, and now, last year, a year ago, we adopted the new name of ArtSpark Texas, which means sparking the creative in everyone. So yes, Gene, even you, we can even help you find your creative bent.
There's hope for me after all.
There is hope. A little tiny sliver, but yes, there is a hope.
And ArtSpark is there to help you find it. Boy, what a promotion.
Absolutely, even if we have to use an excavating machine.
So I know that there's a lot of different moving parts to ArtSpark. And you guys do all kinds of things and offer so many services. And, you know, a second ago you mentioned that you do audio description. Can you tell us a little bit about what audio description is? And then, you know, what other services does ArtSpark provide?
Sure. Audio description is the verbal translation of visual information. So we started doing it in the theaters, going to the theaters and describing visual elements, actions, costume to people who are blind or have low vision. And now it's pretty much everywhere in everything. We do a lot of educational videos, educational content, doing, and it's really now serving people with autism and people who are driving in their cars who want to watch a movie. Will turn on the audio description so they don't have to. We don't recommend that, but we know that people are doing that. So that's what we've been doing since 1996. We've been doing it for a long time. We have a very robust veterans program. We've been working with veterans since 2009, and have now just signed contracts to work in the VA hospitals in Houston, San Antonio, and Temple. And we've been working in Austin for a while, so we're very happy with the work that we're doing with our veterans. We have an integrated dance company called Body Shift, where we offer bi-weekly classes. We've been doing them online now since April. And we're invited to present around the country with our integrated dance. We're really considered to be one of the premier initiatives in the country with integrated dance.
Cool. Yeah.
We call it New Media Arts. It's working with high school age kids and older in technology, and helping people learn the ins and outs of technology. Hoping to launch a podcast. We've been doing a lot of research looking at a podcast now that would be run by our youth. We work with older adults. We have a program called Mobile Art, where we take art into older adults, 65 and older, into their homes, into the city of Austin facilities, into senior activity centers.
And you're still able to do that with the COVID situation that we're in?
Online. We're do it all online. We do it, we mail instructions and materials to individuals, and then once a week, it's actually every other week, we have a group phone call, and people call in, and that is more about combating isolation. So they're not actually doing the art together on the phone. They're just talking about the art, learning a little bit about the master artist that was during the lesson. And so, yeah, we've been very successful. We partner with Family Elder Care on that. And they tell us that we are the most successful program that they've taken online. And so that's nice,
So you'd be a teacher of other programs, how to do this successfully.
Right. We've done some how-to videos, and all of our videos on our YouTube channel. We have our own channel, ArtSpark Texas. We try to model how to do an inclusive video in terms of we provide captioning on everything we do, and our teachers say what they're doing when they're doing it, or so that we build audio description into the actual lesson. So we try, and we've done some presentations and some webinars over the past 5 months on how to make your online videos more accessible. And I just got contacted by a national organization, I don't know all the letters, that work with agents and producers and performing arts facilities to be on a national panel on accessibility in the performing arts and how to make your virtual environment accessible.
Oh, hear that, Dave? We know someone really important.
We do.
Well, let me do the presentation yet and see if they don't turn off my camera.
So, Celia, you mentioned some senior programs, and then you work with kids too. So, what age range are we talking about?
No, we don't work with really young. We do our cutoff at age 16 and then older. So it's 16 and up. We found when we first started doing this and we were working with younger children that we couldn't maintain what we felt was a safe adult to child ratio. And we also felt that there are programs out there for young kids that through their schools. It's when you get older, when you are transitioning out of school, and when there's nothing out there for you. And so we began to just say 16 was pretty much our cutoff. We will go a little younger. We've gone to 14, but that has its own issues because there's a big difference between 14 and 16 in developmental age.
I see.
But we do, as older adults, we work with people that are in their 90s through our mobile art program.
Great.
So we've got all these, you offer all these things to many different clients, from, dancing and art projects, and that's got to be expensive for the client, right? I mean, what does it cost me to be able to participate in one of those art events?
Just about everything we do is free. Our dance classes are a sliding scale. We ask people to donate between $5 and $20 for a class, but we don't turn anyone away if they can't afford that. So, and we sometimes charge like $10, between 10 and 25, because we find that people put more value on something if they've paid a little bit for it, and they're more likely to attend if they've paid a little something for it. So we play it by ear, but we don't turn anyone away. So I spend a lot of my time writing grants and entering into contracts with people, fee for service, to provide some sort of a program for someone. So, you know, in order to make it free, you know, because we work with people who don't have a lot of disposable income, and we have to make sure that we honor that.
And you do this statewide?
We are statewide, and we have found through this pandemic that we are reaching a larger group of people outside of the state, that we have had a hard time, I mean, outside of Austin. We've always been statewide because of when we were a VSA, we were federally funded, and with that came a mandate that we had to be in 51% of our congressional districts. And in Texas, that's a lot. So, so we've always worked really, really hard to try to be statewide. We've traveled a lot, done workshops around the state. And we're not under that mandate anymore, but we've really, because we spent all that time, we've got some really nice relationships with organizations and people all around the state. So like our open mic, we do an inclusive open mic. We're in our 5th year, maybe even in our 6th year. It's called Lion and Pirate, because we do it at the Malvern Books here in Austin, and they have a pirate that hangs down from the ceiling behind the desk, and then they have a bronze lion that greets you at the door. So we just called it the Lion and Pirate open mic, and so we took that online in April, and we've now got people coming in from out of state to join our open mic. So very excited about that.
So to participate in that, you don't have to talk like a pirate, right?
No. No, you don't.
Although I think if you look real close, you'll find a treasure chest behind Gene there on the beach.
Well, you know, if we can ever get Gene out of the Caymans, maybe we can get him to do some work again.
I'm working at home.
You live in the Caymans now?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'm on my porch here.
Okay.
So speaking of working at home, Celia, how have you or ArtSpark of Texas been able to adjust to this COVID pandemic?
Well, we've adjusted pretty much like everybody else has. You know, everybody's working from home. Our offices were locked on March 13th. Still are. The building is still locked. You're allowed in if you have a key. So I go into the office about I go in at least once a week, sometimes more than that. April comes in about once a week. Because the week of spring break, which was the week after our building was locked, we were scheduled to take all of our files online. We're launching Texas Stories Part 2. We did Texas Stories this summer. It was an 8-week series. It was an educational series, but we ended up having children as young as 8 and adults in their late 60s attend. And it's talking about different Texas cultures and Texas people that folks might not know about. And then there's always an art project that's tied to that individual. And we bring in guest speakers every week. And so we're bringing that back. We've got 8 new shows that we're going to be launching in September. Which is, yeah, I'm looking, it's going to be fun. We've done this community conversations, which is every other Wednesday night, and we feature artists and things like that. We should talk to you folks. That's been very popular. And in September, on September 20th, is our annual Artist of the Year Awards. And so we're virtual this year, and we've got some fun things planned. And here, live on air, I'm going to say that the staff has requested that the Gene and Dave be our MCs.
Oh, excellent.
So I'm formally inviting you, asking you if you would serve as our MCs for the September 20th Artist of the Year annual celebration.
Well, it would be an honor.
Terrific. Great. So we'll talk. We've got some fun things planned, and so that'll be a nice event in September. We just signed a contract with the VA hospital in Temple. We're launching a whole series of classes for veterans, art classes. We've got a music class we're starting. We're going to be working with the Amphibian Theater out of Fort Worth to do a Shakespeare project called Decruit, as opposed to Recruit. And it works with veterans because NYU, I think it's NYU, might be Columbia, probably should have done my work, have done a long brain research, and they have determined that the way that Shakespeare, the language of Shakespeare, makes you breathe in a different way. And so they have done research to show that veterans and individuals' brains before and after have changed through de-stress and deprogramming and to try to help veterans get their boots back on the ground here in civilian life. So we're excited about that. We're going to be working with that. And rumor has it that we're going to be doing a 20th anniversary of Actual Lives. So I'm just going to put that out there. Rumor has it. It hasn't really coalesced yet, but the
Party's brewing.
Are stirring.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to that. Well, Celia, we want to thank you for your time. And you've been a big help to us over the years. So,
it's been my pleasure.
Excellent. We look forward to another 20 years of being together.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care.
All righty. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right. That was great. Let's find another place to crank call.
All right. How about this place? Easter Seals.
Easter Seals. Okay, good one. Good choice.
Hello, Easter Seals.
Yeah, we'd like to buy an Easter seal.
Pardon me?
Yeah, a seal. We would like to buy an Easter seal.
Yeah, no. We don't have that kind of seal.
Well, what about a Christmas seal? Or how much for a baby seal?
No. I think you're mistaken. We don't have those kind of seals.
What about a Navy seal?
Listen, Easter Seals is just our name. We don't have seals or any other animals here. Our name is Easter Seals. It's all one word.
Well, if you don't have seals, what do you have?
Well, Easter Seals is a private, non-profit organization that provides services to seniors and people with disabilities.
You provide equipment and services to seniors and people with disabilities?
Absolutely.
about equipment and services to seniors with disabilities?
Yes, we have all kinds of programs that serve seniors, people with disabilities, and others. You know what? Why don't I send someone over to your office and they'll tell you all about Easter Seals, our programs and services, and how we help people with disabilities live more independent lives.
That sounds super. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So Laura, you're with Easter Seals.
I am with Easter Seals.
And I learned something incredible the other day.
Who's that?
I learned that Easter Seals has nothing to do with seals. It's just a name.
No, we don't have anything to do with seals. It is our name.
Okay, Easter
Yeah.
Seals.
Easter Seals.
But you have everything to do with people with disabilities and seniors.
We do.
Well, and infants.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
so what kind of things, what services or programs
Mhm.
do you provide for folks?
Sure. We have a wide variety of services that we make available to individuals with disabilities. And yes, to your point, our kind of catchphrase is our services are offered to everyone from birth to death. So
From birth to earth.
From birth to earth, I like that even better, yes. And so one of our largest, and probably one of the services we're most well known for, is our early childhood intervention, referred to as ECI. And this is a program where therapists go into the homes of families who have little ones, ages 0 to 3, possibly up to age 5, with some of our other funding, bringing in therapy such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, primarily. And so these therapists work with the little ones and helping them make sure that they're staying on track developmentally. And they're highly trained. We have several bilingual therapists for those families who need that. And then along with that, we have a parenting educator program to work with the families to make sure that those parents have access to whatever resources they may need outside of what Easter Seals provides. So that's a really great program that we offer.
Now, is this all in Austin, or you go outside of Austin?
We go outside of Austin. We are, right now, we're predominantly Easter Seals, Central Texas, but we are very much in a growth pattern. So we are geographically expanding to North Texas, the Valley, and over the next year or two, who knows? We're aggressively expanding our programs. So for right now, predominantly in the Central Texas region, I think we have about a 15, 16 county territory that we're serving, but it's growing.
And then where does Easter Seals get its money from?
Well, ECI, for instance, is primarily a Medicaid billing program, so we would bill Medicaid for those services. We have some fee-for-service programs, so one of the programs that is in my area is an employment program, and we work really closely with the Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehabilitation. So that's a fee-for-service where we're delivering job placement, job readiness training to individuals who are sponsored through vocational rehab, and we get paid that way. We have some foundation grants. We have Travis County and City of Austin and State of Texas funding. And then another program of ours is called Paid Job Training. And we have several contracts where we're doing lawn and landscape. And what's really great about that program,
You're doing what, landscape?
lawn and landscape. So
Oh,
like
really?
we mow the grass at several city-owned properties. Both in the city of Austin, down in San Marcos, as well as the Round Rock areas. And then we have some private lawn and landscaping contracts. And that program is a transitional employment program serving individuals with disabilities, many of whom also have experienced incarceration. And so we're doing some reentry services with them, and we have a licensed counselor who works with that group and kind of helps navigate their return into life outside of prison and trying to get back on a career pathway, whether that's within our lawn and landscaping for a long period of time or more as a transitional employment, and then helping prepare them for other jobs past that time with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I read something on your webpage. It seems like you're just scratching the surface there. I understand you do so much more with infants.
Mm-hmm.
And then seniors.
We have an audiology program where essentially we have one audiologist, and she sees dozens of people every day. And we're connecting them with services to get hearing aids. And just in my time with Easter Seals, I wasn't fully aware of the need for audiology and hearing aids in our communities.
What?
Yeah, I'll connect you with Dr. Bauer. So it's a great service that we offer, and many people take advantage of that. And that's also a Medicaid billing service that we offer.
And then you also have the, well, I call it the Wheelchair Fitness Center.
Yeah, we call it the Life Center.
The Life Center.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got all wheelchair accessible workout machines, and I come here a number of times,
Good.
worked out on them, and I think it's one of Austin's best kept secrets. Anyone in a wheelchair can come in there, and it's free.
Yes, it is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and in addition to all of that specialized equipment that's fully adapted, we have very specialized trainers who individuals can work with so that they can develop their workout routines and stay safe and truly experience some valuable workouts that will bring them the goals that they're trying to achieve in terms of their physical fitness, exercise, maybe progressing in some way from an injury or an illness. And our trainers are excellent. And yes, it's all free.
Fantastic. Do you provide equipment like wheelchairs or
We don't.
hospital beds?
We don't directly, but we certainly, anyone who comes in has access to a service coordinator, and they are there to help those individuals, those families, connect with other resources in our community that Easter Seals doesn't provide directly, but fully knowledgeable of all the different resources in town that folks could have access to and might need.
So if someone needs particularly someone with a disability needs something, at least they can do is call you and get started from there.
Yeah.
And how would they reach you, Laura? Would they call you directly or just a main number?
No, they would just call our main number, which is 512-615-6800. And that individual who answers the phone can direct them to any of the departments and service coordinators, depending on what their needs are.
And your webpage address?
Is EasterSealsCentralTexas.org.
Wow, that's a long one.
It is a long one.
But it should be easy to remember.
Yeah.
EasterSealsCentralTexas.com.
.org.
.org.
Yes.
Excuse me. And you have a Facebook?
We do. Yeah, just find us and like us on Facebook, Easter Seals Central Texas. We put a ton of information out there, our current events, ways to support us either through volunteering or donating, whatever kind of things we have going on, and we do a lot of different things. So our Facebook page is a great way to hear about us.
That's fantastic. It's good to hear. Hey, what about that chairman you had? I heard he was a bit...
We should try to talk about that later.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, I'll tell you what, if you need some equipment or services, give Laura a call, or at least give Easter Seals a call, and they'll see if they can hook you up. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Jane.
help.
Appreciate you talking to me.
You betcha.
So yeah, that was David Snyder and our friend Laura Griebel with Easter Seals. And we know Laura from way back, from actual lives, some 20 years ago. So it was good catching up with them. Next up, we have John Minkowski from another local resource in Austin called ARSL. Let's see what John has to say. Here we are at ARSL with John Minkowski, the Director of the Independent Living Services. John, tell us a little bit about ARSL.
ARSL is a Center for Independent Living. We're one of a network of over 400 local nonprofit corporations around the country that assist people with disabilities to live more independently. Independent living defined as meaningful control over decisions for their life. In some cases that means decisions about where they live, but overall it's about how someone lives. Being able to make the decisions that matter for an individual. So we're in the Austin area. We have 4 offices. We're in South Austin. The main office is up in North Austin on Cameron Road. We have offices in Round Rock and San Marcos also.
And what ages do you serve people with disabilities?
We serve people with all types of disabilities and all ages. And so that comes from children to people who are octogenarians, I guess is the right word. We have no restrictions on based on age.
That's fantastic. Now, as a Center for Independent Living, you have certain core values or services you provide. Tell us about those, please.
Well, there are 5 core services. Usually starts with information referral. That is helping people understand and connect to various supports and resources in a broad range of things. Housing and transportation and medical care and insurance, things like social security benefits, things like community activities. A lot of information work, and obviously in conjunction with any number of other organizations that help identify and guide people to resources in the community. Second core service is individual and systems advocacy. Individual advocacy meaning helping an individual work through a situation, often some type of bureaucratic process or appeal related to a service provider or some type of assistance. And systems advocacy being systems change activities, improving opportunities in housing and transportation and medical care and access to what's in the community.
Yeah, we see you down at the Capitol every now and then.
We do that,
Appreciate you
and
coming
we
down.
have it's in our interest, and it's our charge to educate decision makers, elected and otherwise, about what people with disabilities experience and what their needs are. Another core service is independent living skills training. Independent living skills training focuses on things that people normally learn growing up, but many people with disabilities do not, or skills that you need because you've acquired a disability. It can be everything from computers to cooking, health management type things, exercise programs, recreational activities, any number of things, employment related stuff. Can be part of independent living skills training. Again, each Center for Independent Living will have their own thing. Another core service is what we refer to as peer support, and that's, again, a broad range of things. Sometimes it's small group counseling sessions, sometimes it's more about psychological adjustment to disability or specific disabilities, or just the idea of adjusting to life in the community with a disability. And that's 4 core services. The 5th core service is what they refer to as transition. And transition actually means 3 different things. First is transition from childhood to adult life, making the leap from high school to what comes after, whether that means continuing education or employment or seeking a new place to live. Accessing resources and services, making plans for life beyond high school. Second part of transition is transition from institutions to the community, helping people gather supports and resources and identify what they need when they choose to leave a nursing home or other institutions and move back into the community, either with themselves or with family or any number of different types of residential options. And the third transition is avoiding institutional placement. That is identifying risk and resolving risk so someone isn't forced to go into a nursing home or other type of institution. So that's 5 core services.
I remember seeing somewhere on your webpage something about taking risks.
Yeah, and that's part of the philosophy. It's dignity of risk. It's a philosophy of having meaningful choices. I always say that we learn when we fail, and people with disabilities can be sheltered from that, which shelters them for opportunities to learn. We're not encouraging people to do things that are dangerous or things they don't understand. We're encouraging people to live life and go out in the community and do the things they want to do.
I think that's incredibly important, but probably more so for people with disabilities than otherwise, because we have a lot more unknowns in our life.
Yeah, and a lot more other people that control what options are available to us, and we push back against that.
So, John, talk about you talked about the 5 core services that independent living centers around the country might provide. Tell us about ARSL specifically.
Okay. Well, ARSL and other centers for independent living in Texas have a contract with the state for nursing home transition. That is, going to nursing homes, planning with the people who are requesting to have assistance to go back to the community, developing resources and supports, and in many cases acquiring housing, just structuring the things someone needs to live in the community, being able to access transportation, setting up medical care, setting up personal care assistance in the home. And they refer to that program as Home by Choice. Again, it's a statewide program. ARSL is one of the providers in the state. Another statewide program is called Independent Living Services. That is the program where we help people with the cost of all types of medical equipment. Things that are not covered by insurance, or when someone has insurance but there's a copay, we were able to help with that cost. A broad range of things: mobility equipment, wheelchairs and walkers, and things like lift chairs in the home, but communications equipment, whether that means note takers and readers, but mostly the communication has to do with hearing aids. That's a big part of what we're doing. That's generally not covered by insurance, so it's a big cost that many people can't afford. So we're able to help out with the cost of hearing aids, vision-related services, magnification and skills training, orientation and mobility training, different types of devices people use who are blind or visually impaired, whether it was mobility, hearing, vision, things like home accessibility, building ramps or grab bars, and for rural areas, assistance with the cost of vehicle modification, often meaning putting a lift into a van, or in other cases, things like hand controls for somebody who's paralyzed to go into a vehicle and be able to drive.
Now, John, about 6 months ago, I had a particular problem. I was getting pressure sores, and those are spots in my body that I was getting pressure from the way I was laying on my mattress, and the skin was dying off, and I really needed a new mattress, an air mattress that would prevent these types of problems. But in my quest for a mattress, I found one that could do the job. It was about, I don't know, $30,000 or so. And I couldn't afford that. My insurance couldn't afford it. And I talked to the vendor of the mattresses, and I said, well, where do people go? What do they do when they can't afford it? And he says, where do you live? And I says, Austin, Texas. He says, oh, well, you're in luck. Go see John Minkowski at ARSL.
Well, fortunately, we didn't have to spend $30,000.
No, right,
But yeah, those are that we just had the mattress that would go with the bed you had, yeah, it's really great that we're able to help people with the cost. That's the kind of things that keeps people with disabilities active in the community. That's the kind of thing that helps people not be forced into a nursing home because of the cost of medical equipment.
See, that's one of the things I never knew independent living centers could help with.
Yeah.
If there are people that are wondering how you can help, what's the best way they can contact Arsenal?
The main phone number is 512-832-6349. If you tell the receptionist what you're interested in, they'll get you to the staff person that's that's best for that issue. Some people will receive and work with several staff on several different programs. And there's also the website www.arcil.com, arcil.com, or email to arcil@arcil.com, arcil@arcil.com.
So if they're deaf or hearing impaired, perhaps email might be the best way.
Email's fine. We do have, well, we get calls through relay services all the time. We get a lot more of that than we use TTY. There are lots of people call with the relay, so that works very well. And I think that's a free service that people can access if they have difficulty with the phone.
Fantastic.
And we'll also help you get better phones to meet your needs too, if that's something you need to do.
Wow. John, is there anything you'd like to add that people should know about Arsenal?
Well, we do have, we've developed different programs, and that most centers for independent living around the country have their own things. They may have contracts, or they may do services that they get paid for to help people without. So that's going to be an individual thing. In addition to independent living services, which is the medical equipment part, that's available statewide. Different centers for independent living around the state are doing that. Another statewide program is the Home by Choice, which refers to transition from the nursing home to a community residence. We're one of the contractors in that program. Someone who chooses to come out of a nursing home and give back to the community, they will work with directly. They'll develop plans. They will create access to resources, setting up personal care assistance, identifying how to get medical care, transportation, peer support, social supports, and in many cases identifying housing that will be affordable and appropriate for the individual. So it's a big chore. Every year, Centers for Independent Living across the state help hundreds of people with disabilities to transition from nursing homes back to their communities with their families.
So you might be someone that we could go to if we're looking for accessible housing.
Well, right, and that's part of information referral. That's part of advocacy. We don't do, Centers for Independent Living by definition are non-residential. We don't provide housing. And we're not allowed to, but we do advocate for it. We do keep track of what's out there and help people understand and pursue the options available to them. Affordable housing is a horribly huge issue that nobody is solving.
Oh, particularly in Austin.
Not even in Austin. We're getting people gentrified in Dripping Springs.
Wow.
That left Austin years ago to find an affordable place to live, and they're getting gentrified out of all the smaller communities throughout the area. But it's nationwide.
And in attendance services or referral rather?
Yeah, sure. That's all part of information referral. We can often be helpful with understanding how people acquire those services. In many cases, looking for an individual to be hired to provide that.
Well, fantastic. If you want that information again on ARSO, we've got it at the bottom of the screen here. It's also on our summary page. If you go to the Gene and Dave show, just look up the show on Know Your Resources, and you'll find this show there with all the information. You know, Dave Arcel really helped me out when I was in a jam. I was having some problem with pressure sores, and I needed a special bed. It cost about $3,000.
Whoa, that's a lot for a bed.
I should say. And so I called up this one vendor. He told me the price, and I said, "Look, I can't afford that. You've got to be working with other organizations in town. Who do you know I can find to help me out?" And he recommended Arcel. So I contacted John, and John had me fill out some forms, and they went ahead and bought me this very expensive bed that's been a lifesaver.
Nice.
So, yeah, so we encourage people out there to know your resources and call Arcel next time you gotta have a special need. Next up, we're going to visit the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities and talk with Dennis Burrell about accessible voting. We're here today with Dennis Burrell at CTD. Dennis has brought some folks in here who are developing accessible voting machines. Dennis, tell us a little bit more about what's happening today.
Well, this is exciting stuff. The ability to vote is something very cherished in our society, cherished by everybody. But a lot of the old school voting machines weren't accessible. That's changed over the last few decades, and this is now kind of the next development. What's really exciting about this is this particular manufacturer is coming to us actually as part of the development of their machines and actually going to take feedback from real voters with disabilities on how these accessibility features are going to work.
So they'll take the feedback that they get today, perhaps redesign or modify the machines to make them as accessible as possible?
Yes, that's right. And they may also, another thing they might get out of this is, poll workers are going to be the people on site, and they'll probably provide them some perhaps training materials from the experiences they had with voters with disabilities to let those poll workers know what they should be doing too, which is another factor in accessible voting.
And CTD is always on the forefront of integrating people with disabilities into the community and getting folks out to vote on issues that bring us all together is very important. So thank you for facilitating that for us, Dennis.
Well, you're welcome, and you're right. The best way to test for accessibility, whether it's a building, a voting machine, a bus, a train, paratransit, whatever, getting in the state capitol here in Austin, the best way to test is actually a hands-on test for accessibility and usability, which is kind of like a little bit of softer technology things, but how it really works and how people feel about the accommodations that are being made. Thank you, Gene. And
we're still here at CTD with Steve Stockwell, who's representing Intercivic, a company that makes accessible voting machines. Steve, how long have you been doing this?
Well, it's a great question. So Hart has been in the voting business in one form or another for over 100 years. The firm was founded, I believe it was 1912, and started off as a printer, printed ballots, and delivered them in horse-drawn wagons for local elections around the state. Several years ago, about 15 or 20 years ago, the company decided to focus more on voting technology and has now launched our second generation of voting machines that are designed to help all voters vote in an equal and accessible and independent way.
So you say these were designed for everybody. So we're talking today about people with disabilities. How did you include the disabled population in the design of these machines?
Well, it's a great question. It begins with certification. So voting machines in America typically are certified at two levels, both by the federal government and by the state governments, wherever they're sold. Now, those certification requirements are not necessarily mandatory, but for all practical purposes, all voting machine manufacturers are going to go through the certification process to make sure that they meet the minimum requirements defined either by the Federal Election Assistance Commission, which we refer to as the EAC, or by the state-specific certification authority, which in the case of Texas is the Secretary of State's office. So each of those levels of certification include certain accessibility features and requirements, but we pride ourselves on the fact that we don't limit ourselves to just those certification requirements. We try to go above and beyond, which is part of the reason why we're here today, to make sure that our systems don't just meet the bare minimum, but are really voter-friendly for all voters.
Steve, what are some of the features on these machines that make them accessible?
Well, there's a long list of them, so I may not get the whole list right, but I'll give you some examples. For voters with visual disabilities, all the devices have Braille instructions on the devices themselves. All of the ballot and ballot instruction information is available via audio ballot, so a voter can listen to their ballot being read to them via headphones and use the device's controls to make their selections. And of course, those audio ballots are also available in whatever language that voter is more comfortable listening to. In Texas, that's typically English and Spanish, but we can also do that in many other languages as well. The devices are set up so that voters who are in wheelchairs or have other types of mobility impairments can access the device on a lower level. The booths are set up so that they're wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair to come straight into them. The scanning devices and the ballot boxes for jurisdictions that vote with a paper ballot are set up so that a voter in a wheelchair can easily access the scanner and the ballot box without having to stretch or reach or things like that. So there are many, many accessibility features. The devices for some voters are not completely blind, but they may have certain visual needs that are slightly different than most voters. So the screens can be turned from color to black and white. The black and white can be inversed with a white background or a black background. The contrast can be changed. The font sizes can be changed, so much larger font. And of course, the volume can be adjusted on the audio ballot as well. If a voter is more comfortable voting with an audio ballot, they have the option of turning the screen off entirely, so nobody around them can see what's on the screen while they're listening and voting.
Steve, this is all very impressive. So now what we need to do is get people with disabilities to get them out to the voting. You know, Steve, this is all very impressive. We just need to inform people with disabilities about all the access features you've got, so they won't be afraid to go out to the voting places.
Totally agree. That's our goal, is to increase voter participation and design these systems so that voters can vote not only in a way that accommodates their needs, but they can vote independently and privately and have all the same security features that every other voter has. Our goal is to make it a completely equal experience. One thing we didn't talk about, but we should mention, is curbside voting. So many of our devices are designed so that if a voter, for whatever reason, cannot get out of their car to go into a polling place, a device can be brought to them and they can record their vote in the car, and either somebody they know and trust or the polling place judge can carry their vote back into the system, and it gets recorded along with everybody else's. So the way curbside voting works from county to county tends to vary, because most election operations are managed at the local level. Mm-hmm. So a voter in West Texas might have different voting experience than a voter in East Texas, but our systems are designed to accommodate all those different types of voting.
Steve, thank you very much. Where can we go to get more information about the particular machines you've got?
Great question. We would encourage anybody who's interested to learn about the systems we have, including their accessibility features, to visit our website, which is hartintercivic.com. Hart is spelled H-A-R-T. So HARTINTERCIVIC.com, where there's lots of information. And we also partner very closely with the coalition here, the CTD, and they have a lot of information about our products, and you can certainly send questions to Chase or Dennis, and they'll send them to us as well, and we have a very open line of communication because we want to make sure that everybody who's part of CTD and all the community they serve has access to all the information.
Steve, you might have heard we have a little election coming up in November, and it's important to a few people here in Texas. So will we be seeing your machines in this upcoming election? Will we be using your machines?
Well, it depends on where you live, but here in Texas, most registered voters in Texas live in a county where you do have our machines. But we're not the only voting machine supplier to counties in the state. So depending on where you live, you might and you might not. But the good news is that even our competitors follow the basic minimum standards for accessibility features. So everybody should be encouraged to go out and vote. I completely agree with you. It's our goal to maximize voter participation, and we would love to, whether you vote on a Hart machine or not, we want everyone to get out and vote.
Thanks, Steve. This is Gene signing off for the Gene and Dave Show. Adios. Super. Dennis is always on top of things, and I'm glad he invited us. He also invited Steve Stockwell to tell us about the particulars of these voting machines. So hats off to Steve Stockwell as well. Well, that's it for this edition of the Gene and Dave Show.
That's great, Gene. And now you don't have any excuse not to go out and vote. You know, they've got the voting machines, and just go vote, people. Vote as if your life depended on it, because it does.
As they say in Chicago, vote early, vote often. Signing off. Gene and Dave Show. So long.
Yeah.
And can Mom afford to have help preparing her meals? We know what you're going through. AmeriGroup has a plan for people with Medicaid that helps them get the services they need to live at home. AmeriGroup. Choose us for helping your loved ones live at home. Call 1-800-964-2777.